Welcome back to Random Rod Shop, folks. Well, I got the shortened Silverado axle underneath the 1967 C10. I found all the brake parts and let me show you. All right. Well, I took the hose clamps off of it. That's what I was using to hold the purchase. I'll check everything one more time before we weld those purchase in when we get this thing back in the shop. But it's close. It's not exactly right yet, but it's pretty close. Found all the brake parts. That made me happy. These are a set of tires I had. They were definitely too big for this truck. My 71 has 32 1150 15s on the back of it, and that's pretty much. I got it on 10-inch wide rims with a 5 inches backspace, so they're centered, and that's pretty much what I can get underneath that thing. These are 33 1250 15s, I believe. Anyway, they're 1250s. I don't believe those will fit in there without some work. So for right now, this is the tires I got. So now it's all bolted together. It's just waiting its turn in the shop. So here's the plan today. I showed you guys earlier, for you guys who've been watching, I showed you I found another front clip for that 67 that's in a lot better shape. I would really like to put a 67 front end on my 71. Well, the fenders off of that 67 we just looked at, fenders needed a little help. So here's what we're gonna do. Or I should say, here's what I hope we're gonna do. So here's the 67 fender that came off that blue truck. It's missing a little bit. And it's got a bobble in the back too, but that doesn't seem to be near as problematic as this. There's an inner and outer piece of this corner. Now I've got a reproduction 69 to 72 fender. It's got a little ding in it, but it seems to be pretty much rust free. So other than that dent, I think that would be a good patch to fix that. Now I've been thinking about this pretty hard, trying to figure out what the best approach is to whack this off and get it on there and try to get everything straight. I don't know if it's the right answer or not, but what I've decided is to break these spot welds and separate this inner and outer. First off, that'll give me a little more room to come in and straighten this crinkle that's in here. My biggest hesitation with this is that bend it's pretty sharp. That means it stretched the metal there. So I'm not good enough to really use a torch to shrink, but I think that's the right answer here. I'm going to use a little bit of heat and see if we can get that crinkle out, and in the end, maybe take a little bit of the stretch out. So I'm going to get spot welds out of this. I'm going to set the camera back here and probably speed through this because I don't know that you're excited about that, but I got to get it done. So get this section off. I think I'm going to make a cut along this body line here. That should be pretty stiff in terms of when you weld it back together. It should be less likely to get all whoopy. I don't know. That's what we're going to do. In the end, fender isn't worth anything as it is, and if I mess it up, well, I got to go find another fender. But we're going to give this a shot. a spot weld right there. And there. And there. I don't know if I can hold it and get the camera up close or not. So I'll just back the camera up and see if I can drill those out. Alright, looks like what we have left is we got one there, 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 and I think that's it. So let me get those punched and we'll get those drilled out. Alright, let's have a look at what we got. That may not be that bad. Let me get a dolly. Alright. This hammer's got a little bit of a rounded end on it. Maybe we don't flatten this thing out as much as normal. Well, that's better. Still need to see if we can flatten it out a little bit. Let me change dollies and let me get the slapper bar. You know, I made a slapper bar out of a leaf spring, and I really like that thing. I need to make another one because I'm not entirely sold on this one. This is, you know, one of the store-bought ones, and it just, I don't know. It's not the same. Well, it's not perfect, but I'm not a metal worker either. I think that'll be good enough. I think what I'm going to do now, you notice when I cut this above these two bolt holes. These go into the core support. Need to drill that one out. Looks like there's a bolt broke out. I'll get that drilled out. But I thought I could use those two bolts to line up with the two bolts that's in the other fender. And that way I could try to make sure this is in the same place. I think I almost forgot. So you guys that are familiar with C10s, you're already going to know this. But other than the obvious difference, right, this has a parking light. These two fenders were the grill's changed in '69 on the Chevys. So the fenders for the Chevys have a kick out. I'm going to get the camera down and show this way so you can see the difference. All right, see where this has a lip that, you know, stands off? It's because the grill goes around this. And this is the 69 to 72 Chevy. The 67 doesn't have that. It doesn't stand out. Let me see if I can get it. Here's the furthest forward piece of the fender. And if you look at the side you see, then it dives in. On the 69 to 72, here's the side you see, but then it kicks out. So what that means is the fenders aren't interchangeable and the grills aren't interchangeable. You want to put 67 fenders on, other than changing the hood, you got to change the grill in addition to the fenders. I had thought about, you know, putting that front on this, and I might have done that if the bottom of this 67 hadn't have been toast. But I think the path we're going down now is the one we're going to take. So I'm going to chop this thing off. I'm going to leave myself lots of room and then set it on there and let's see how it looks. All right, well, in all honesty, I don't like cutting this stuff out until it's fit, but kind of couldn't figure out how to get it fit until I cut some of this stuff off. Let's see how this goes back together. And my idea was to, I couldn't get that bolt out. I welded on another nut. So I need to cut this so I can get just a little more room here. Because what I'd like to do is use this hole and this hole to bolt it on there, and probably, this is 5/16. Should be able to put a 1/4 inch bolt through that and hold that up there and get this in position. Let me cut this off. Well, you guys probably saw that coming. There's a nut on the back side of this which isn't going to let this set in there. So I'm going to actually have to cut this off and get this mated up and, you know, commit. So let me mark this out. I don't see any other way to do it. Because I really think I want to get this fitted on here to at least give me some sort of guide with regard to putting this bottom back on. Let me go get my scribe and marker, and we'll see what we can get figured out here. Well, I guess we learned something. Let me show you. So this is the piece out of the fender for the 1967. This is the reproduction fender out of the 69 to 72. I didn't think there was that much difference between those two. You know, obviously the radiator sport is a little different because of the different grills, but I thought down on the bottom end they were pretty close. It turns out that's not true. I put these on top of each other, and you know, I got the thickness of the metal here we're playing with. So, you know, this edge and this edge looks like it's pretty close. This isn't pretty close. And probably more importantly, the bolt holes. Right, so that one's pretty much lined up. This one is a half a hole off that way. So, right, so this hole, and so the trick is the distance between this side and this side. So give or take, that's about an inch, right? Maybe 15, 16, somewhere, but it's about an inch. That's pretty close to an inch and 1.25. Well, you could say 1 3/16 inches, but somewhere between 1 3/16 inches and 1.25 inches. And that's probably because the grills are quite a bit different. So this just turned into a completely different project. So the trick is, what's going to be the best way to fix this? Because for the most part, those holes are in the wrong place. Well, it looks like the distance left and right is the same. My plan was to cut this off and just use this hole here and this side over here. So it would appear that I need to move that hole over that way 1/4 inch. I think that's where we're going to start. Knock that nut I welded on the back, and you know, get my dividers and get real close to what this thing is, and then move it over. I'll measure this and move that hole over that much, and we'll set it up there and try it again. Let me get this thing knocked off here, and we'll go from there. All right, so we're at another decision point here. It doesn't look like these two want to play together, but that's the fender I got, and these are the pieces I got. So, barring making a whole new piece, which isn't top of my list, I think I might just prefer to see if I find another fender. But until we go to there, until we make that decision, we're going to put this thing together. And if we can't figure out how to make it work, then we'll go see if we can find another fender. All right, I'm going to chop the top of this off so that it'll fit in the hole I got made over there. I'll set the camera up over there. All right, so I've notched out a piece of the original fender with the idea that this is gonna help me align the sides right here. So I've marked out where I think I need to cut. Well, let's get it cut. Okay, I whacked off the top there. I think I'm gonna put a square on that and make sure that's 90, and then I'm gonna find a bar or a strap and get this clamped together so that this is straight. Then we can finish cutting the stuff out and we'll tack this thing in here. All right, well, I just went ahead and welded it on. You've seen me weld sheet metal on a lot. You know, what do you think the chances are that the bottom of this, bottom of that 69 to 72 fender is different than a 67, 68? I don't know. Getting ready to find out though. You know, I think that thing may fit. I need to trim it up just a little bit to get it so we're not fighting it so hard. I think I'm gonna trim just over that edge. I'd like to leave just a little bit of an edge on there. I'm gonna have to eventually cut it off, but I'd like to leave some on while we're trying to fit it, because if you just cut it all off, this thing gets real floppy. And I'd like to keep, you know, I still don't know whether it's the right shape, and if it is, I'd hate to mess it up. So I'm gonna give me some masking tape, run along just over that bend, all the way across, and we'll whack it off. Let me do that. Well, I think it's close enough that we can try it. We definitely need to decide where we're gonna make the cut. I mean, we can come in and we can trim it as we're welding it, but still got too much material. I think I'd like to cut right below that bend line right there. So I guess what we need to do is we need to cut below the bend line here, get it fitting on the side, and make sure we got everything trimmed, right? Because right now it's trapped, right? I've got a bend on both sides, so we gotta figure out how we're gonna get around that bend. First step is probably to get this trimmed down, trim whatever I need to trim on the ends so that I can lock it down, and then we'll come back and we'll, you know, do the fitsy cutting belt on the back. I think that's what we're gonna do. Let me get this marked off, I'll get this cut, then we'll flip it over and we'll see what we need to trim so we can, this thing's gotta fit on there before we start monkeying with it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off, then we're gonna flip this over and we're gonna see what we need to cut off. All right, folks, well, I gotta tell you, I had my doubts, but I think that's gonna fit. Proof's gonna be in the pudding when we put that third piece in. You know, the piece we put on the back, it was shaped just a little different than the factory one, but I think this is gonna work on there. Now, best laid plans of mice have been. Let me get this tacked on. I'll go ahead and cut the original metal out. So this is butt welded. I'm not going to take the time to weld it up solid. I'm going to just get it all tacked in there good, and then we'll flip it over and we'll see if that back piece fits. Well, I got carried away. This I don't know if I had the welder too hot initially. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I've blown a lot of holes in this thing. So I've spent a good amount of time filling up some holes. I've got it sanded down. Now that I've got it all closed up, I'm gonna have to go back over, but I am anxious to, and let me get the camera down there. So you can see it ain't nowhere close to being done yet. We still got a few holes and it's not completely welded. it looks like it's going to work. And since we stayed close to that body line, it actually feels pretty good. I don't feel any waves or anything in it. So let's flip it over and see, well, let's see how that other piece is, because I haven't checked it yet. And given the problems we've had so far, I don't have high expectations. But, you know, even a blind pig finds an acorn sometimes. Let's have a look at this. Relatively speaking, that's where I drilled that out. So that doesn't look too bad. Let's get that other piece. Let's see where I laid it. Oh, I forgot. We need to straighten the bottom of this up. I don't know if I've got that bent right. I actually think that needs to be bent up, and anyway, let's check it. Yeah, I think that one needs to look like that. Well, that's better. Let's see what it fits like. I think I'm gonna get some sheet metal screws and put some screws in this thing. Well, it was almost there. I've got 2 of the 3 screws in over here. That one spot weld just barely hit, so it can't do anything there. These 3 are in, and it looks like that one is close. Oh, that one's close. Actually, all of them may work. Since I don't have it welded in over here, these are lining up, and those will line up. Let me put some screws in there, see if this all goes back together. Well, I don't know about you folks, but I'm pretty happy about that. I can tell you I had no expectations that this was going to fit this good. None whatsoever. Looks like we still... Still need to clean that up a little bit, but let's flip it over and see if it see what it looks like. Well, I'm pretty happy about that. All right, I'm gonna take all my screws back out and clean all the rust off of that thing, because where they overlap, there was some rust. Do a little more hammering on this, I think. Just a little bit. And I think I'll go out and look at my other truck. I seem to think that is supposed to be flush in there because it's spot welded. So, need a little more work on that. Given this was bent, that was probably bent right there. All right, let me flip it over. Let me get screws out, and let's see if we can clean this up and get this thing all together. All right, got it all cleaned up. Got the weld-through primer on it. I want to get this welded in place. And you guys that's welded sheet metal before, you know, at this point there's still a couple hours more work. Right now I want it all welded up. Then we just got to weld it. We got to finish welding it and get it clean. That fit a whole lot better than I thought it was going to. I know I keep saying that, but I'm just amazed. Let's get this welded up. A little piece of copper on the back side of that, because there wasn't much spot weld there, and so where I drilled the hole, there's nothing behind it. So we're going to fill up that hole with a little piece of copper in the back. That welder won't stick to that copper. Okay, let me spend a little time cleaning this up, and we'll have a look at it. Don't you hate it when you break off one of those roto discs inside? Let me get an easy out. All right, there it is. All right, let me go get another disc. We'll finish cleaning this up. Well, you know, I know I've said it multiple times during this little project, but I am really happy the way this thing turned out. I really didn't have high expectations. I had hope, but I wasn't sure how this was all going to go together. All right, well, I've got a couple hours of grinding and cleaning and, you know, welding. You guys saw it, but I think that's all we got time for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. If you haven't subscribed, you know, subscribe. Make a comment. Leave a like. And until next time, I'm Random at Random Rod Shop, and we're out of here.